what, under the rock now.
The one, the only,
Ha-ha.
the shaker.
Hey, what's going on?
We got it. Hey.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for the invite. Again, it's a pleasure. You guys are awesome, and I'm so glad to just be a part of this discussion.
People, now Shags, you have been having multiple conversations with folks, and dare I say, the controversial kind. So
Yeah.
you've stirred the waters where you've maintained a straight ship down the aisle. Now,
wait. You went down an aisle?
Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to congratulate you. That would have been lovely. Sorry. Go on.
So, yeah. So anyway, now, obviously, we all, at least on our side of the internet, oftentimes say like we should be able to have conversations with whoever, and
Yes.
when it comes to actually being practiced, doesn't really happen. So,
Right.
what inspired you to actually have real and meaningful conversations with individuals that you may disagree with?
Because it wasn't happening. People talked about, like as you said, people talked about doing it all the time, and I was noticing, well, it wasn't happening. And if people were saying they were having the conversation, what it eventually devolved into, or what it quickly devolved into on these live streams or interviews, was just yelling at each other, calling each other names. And I was like, well, that's not a conversation. And honestly, I don't know if I necessarily blame those involved for, having it go that way. Everyone's passionate about the things that they like, the businesses they're running, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, I don't really have any sort of, I don't have any skin in the game. And I think this is a perfect opportunity because I do like to talk to people. I would do it every single day of my life if I was able to. So I thought, okay, well, I'm a neutral person. No one really knows who I am. Let me reach out to these individuals and see if they're willing to, give it a fair shake. And, I heard back from some controversial people and they gave me the time of day. Some people liked it. Some people did not like it. And but I knew that's like getting into it. I knew that's what was going to happen.
Of course,
you can't please everyone, but I do think it's important that it takes place because ultimately you might not agree. You might not like a person or care for what they're saying or doing, like when it comes to your favorite creators or whatever, but you might learn like maybe from the interaction, like how I keep my cool with them, or maybe you learn something about the person you didn't know. Like, oh, I didn't know this person was into that. I'm into that. Where we like the same thing. It's so. Yeah. It's just out of morbid curiosity, like what would happen if I did talk to them, and two, it just wasn't being done, and that was disappointing because I look up to a lot of these people who say like, oh, we need to reach outside, we need to be different, and no one was doing it, so I wanted to be the one to do it.
Well done. Be the change you want to see.
Right.
Yeah. True, and there's nothing wrong with civil discourse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Which actually leads, though, into the question, how do you get into that mental space where when you know you're going to disagree, how do you prepare yourself for that disagreement? Right? Because that is something that oftentimes, at least in my experience, that you kind of got to do is know that the gloves might end up coming off at some point on the other side.
Right.
And my goal is to keep my gloves on.
Yep.
Right. Because I recognize that once I got my own jersey, I need to represent my team well. So, yeah. So you know what I'm getting at. So Take it away.
Well, what's interesting is I spent a lot of time doing what I call TikTok debates, and so I would jump on to my account, and I have enough followers where I can go into. I can't start lives on my phone, but I can get into them. So I would start by talking to people like that, because those are individuals that are very polarized on the opposite side of me. So what I had to do to prepare myself was realizing that these are just people, and they've been told something by people that they respect and who they believe. And all I'm trying to do, or what I remember is all I'm trying to do is not tell somebody how to live their life or to do certain things or what to believe. I tell them, this is what I think is beneficial. You could take it or leave it, but you might learn a perspective by the things I say. And maybe that shifts just a little bit. Because if someone is willing to listen to like the opposition's argument, and from that they gain a different perspective, that's a huge win. That means you took someone who was like dug in, like heels in. And if you're able to just turn them slightly and see a different angle, you might realize like, oh, there's something a little bit off. Or because that's how it started with me with things, is I needed to just sort of like shift my perspective a little bit. But it really took a lot of practice, first of all, but it takes realizing, like humanizing, and you've maybe seen me say that on Twitter, is like, you have to humanize those people who are your opposition. They are individuals. They do care for people. They do love people. They have people who care about them. They have families. You might not like what they say because they're shoveling crap all over your favorite people, but bottom line is they must be good in some way, because there are people who are, I mean, there's some people out there who are just vile humans. Yeah. But it's
assuming the best.
Right. And honestly, I think we need more of that. It's really easy when you get into commentary spaces, especially, you start gravitating towards people you respect and their opinions on things. Right. And the very basic, like with movies, we all follow really great creators in that talk about movies and culture and stuff, or entertainment. And we gravitate towards what they say, because while they haven't like really gone wrong with us, they've given really good points. But it's, I kind of lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Oh, good. Okay.
My alarm just went off. Sorry.
That's fine. We can take the moment to recalibrate by saying, don't humanize Punkwaddle. You need to penguinize him.
Penguinize.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
penguinize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically,
That's a meme, folks.
We should
Memers.
recognize that you have been seen.
Yeah,
So,
and I know there was
Go ahead.
sorry, that segue. I know there was a comment. Was it Amber's comment a second ago that you just started?
Yeah, I'll pull it up here.
It's a great segue because, yeah, I'll read it. First, is the other person, what are they trying to say? If they don't think I am hearing them, they will be louder, anger until they feel heard. And I think that's one of the, I think you nailed it right there, because that's one of the things I could tell in your interviews, just talking to somebody, to let them say their piece, let them say their perspective. And sometimes that means people might tell on themselves and just express who they are, but it's not in a defensive and an argumentative. They get to present who they are, who they say themselves are, and what they value.
Right.
And I think there's so much value to that, to allow people to just express that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day is like we talk a lot of time, or there's some people who talk a lot about, well, there's this side of the aisle that's trying to do something and trying to control where information goes. And when you set standards for people and try and control like what's happening, eventually that comes back around on you. And again, and this is like leads into what Amber's saying a little bit, is like, you have to give people a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because if you were ever under fire for something, that's what you would want. So going quick for the draw and trying to just do the character assassination thing is like, I've been guilty of it in the past, but I want to get better at the initial discourse, and especially around a lot of the stuff that's happening currently. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I can make a quick buck. on this topic. It's like, well, this is, you're talking, when you start getting into people's personal lives, like this, it's a really sticky situation. And you start people like character attacks and stuff like that is so like bad. Like attack an idea, that's fine. But like attacking someone personally is really silly in my opinion. And like for me, I'd rather get to know, okay, why is this person approaching this in a certain way? They're going for the throat, as it were. For people that I respect, but why are they doing? What is the reason? Is it because they're a troll? Is it because it's just their whole shtick? Is it they're just a really bad person? Or are there actual grounds for their criticism? Like there could be real criticism out there that needs to be heard. And then vice versa, when there's people saying you can't have this discourse because it's offensive to me, or it's an affront to what I'm doing. It's like, well, okay. I mean, you don't have to look, you don't have to watch, but I do find it's important because again, taking criticism, I want criticism. If I do something wrong, if I do something bad, if I'm not up to someone's standard, like I would love to hear about that because it's only gonna make me better as a creator.
Some people only want to dish it. They don't want to take it or exchange it.
Oh yeah, which they're just mudslingers. Now the only thing that I would maybe a couple things I'd add, but the whole thing about obviously we don't listen to argue, right? Oftentimes we that is the temptation to listen to just get your point in there. Now what Shags is saying, we listen to understand so that then we can actually process what they're saying. And then here's the thing, if there's actual disagreement, now you can actually disagree with what they're saying and their position, not necessarily the generic slot you might stick them in. So like your attacks might mean nothing if you don't actually hear what they're saying and actually give them an opportunity to speak to what they actually feel and believe, because people have these things called nuances. So
I was going to say exactly, but responding, not reacting, because it's a huge difference. Because I like having conversations and I like having my dry comments, and sometimes on bigger streams and panels, sometimes the people on the panel don't always catch it because they're kind of in their own head in the moment. But I know there's people like you guys are there in the chat who hear everything and don't hear everybody talking over, and you actually catch the comment or the joke or the fact of processing the whole interaction of the banter, and it makes all the difference in the world to realize that somebody's actually really paying attention, and they have to truly understand what you're saying to even give that response. Like give them the benefit of they're engaging with you.
Yeah,
very, very true. Very true.
And on that note, Ronnie G said two things. One, should have hired Petey as your chauffeur. That would make sense. Have a robot as your chauffeur.
That is a great callback, actually.
It is. And then he also said, see, the shag work is reasonable as heck. So
I would think so.
Yes.
Well, you could think so. It's does other people think it's that's the
right? Yeah,
nice because
that was the other thing about the whole criticism thing, right? Don't defend the indefensible people. Stop it. Stop it.
The one thing I just think, I think overall, and what I've learned from talking with people that I disagree with is that, like, at times people will turn on you at like weird moments, and like people that you thought were like behind you and like understood what you were doing, and it's unfortunate when that happens, but those are people who don't understand you, and I am here to do some sort of good in the world, and hopefully people understand at the end of the day when I have a conversation with people that they disagree with, it's not an affront to them. It's out of morbid curiosity. I'm wondering, well, who are you? And maybe there's an angle to you that people can understand and know and understand that, and not just getting from clips on YouTube, because that's where a lot of people get their information now. They'll get a clip that's shared 1,000 times on Twitter and on YouTube, and it's out of context. Like, you don't even really know what was said. You're missing a whole other part of this. And important.
I was gonna say, even half the time those are edited for content, to make it show a certain side. Even like you don't get the raw footage all the time.
Right, and that's a big problem in the discussion part of everything, because you see it even with the people with the best intentions will take things out of context. I saw an article that was presented by Not the Bee, and I shared it, got no traction because I don't know why, but like it was an article presented regarding scientific studies, but they didn't necessarily take it out of context, but they didn't illustrate the numbers that were reported in it properly. So it wasn't a lie even by omission. It was essentially a lie by omission. Like the study was understudied from what I could see.
Like statistically, it wasn't a big enough subject.
Right. They had a huge like control group, which I guess makes sense. But like then the people that they were trying to say like, oh, see, this is really bad, was very small. It was a very small. It was like 1,500 people versus like millions of people. And I thought, man, how could you look at those and say that those numbers are comparable? Like it would be, I don't think that's, and again, this is my pea brain thinking like,
yeah,
we should maybe talk about this a little bit more instead of pushing something that's might not be true.
Hey there! So what you just watched was a portion of our live show that happens on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Apparently you were too lazy to be there that time, but maybe you'll be there next time. Remember, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern.